Video games used to have a kind of silence that has almost disappeared. A silence that begins with the absence of loud music and constant dialogue, then grows into a feeling of complete isolation. The sound of your own footsteps standing out, echoing through an ancient and distant place where humanity survives only as a faded remnant of the past. Few games have conveyed that feeling as effectively as the original Tomb Raider from 1996. Today, Lara Croft is remembered as an icon of the industry, a historic character, a symbol of 90s gaming. But the first game in the franchise carried something very different from the fast-paced and explosive image the series would later adopt. It was solitary, an invitation to introspection. I still remember the first time I watched someone playing it. Even as a spectator, there was something hypnotic about that athletic woman exploring abandoned ruins. I believe that has a lot to do with the way Tomb Raider embraces solitude. The game uses it as the foundation upon which the entire experience is built. Lara is incredibly wealthy. It would be easy for her to isolate herself in comfort inside a gigantic mansion. Living apart from the rest of the world without facing any real discomfort would be an easy choice. But that isn't what she's looking for. She seeks ruins, silence with danger lurking nearby, places where human presence failed to withstand the passage of time. As if only by leaving civilization behind could she hear something that even the smallest crowd is capable of drowning out. And what's most interesting is that the entire game seems designed to sustain that feeling. The HUD is minimal, essentially a health bar that quickly disappears from view. There are no companions talking endlessly in your ear. 5 human enemies is all you get in the whole game. There is commitment to preserving the introspective tone, and that has a much greater impact than it might initially seem. In its own way, much like what we discussed when talking about the silent protagonist, you gradually stop feeling like you're playing a game. Even the nearly countable polygons fail to break the immersion. Peru, the game's first major region, embodies this perfectly. Let's focus our analysis on that setting and explore how an archaeological expedition can feel like a gradual descent into ancient regions of the human mind. The game begins by stripping away almost everything we normally associate with comfort. Lara is far removed from cities and every form of urban convenience. Ahead lies only stone, snow, echoes, and silence. The first enemies are not soldiers or criminals, they are wolves. Nature greets Lara the moment she leaves society behind, and it's not a friendly welcome. After all, life in the wilderness looks a lot more like an episode of Naked and Afraid than a peaceful countryside vacation. One possible reading is that there is something inevitably hostile, not only in the wild, but also within true solitude itself. When external noise disappears, whatever was already waiting in the silence becomes impossible to ignore. And Tomb Raider understands this remarkably well. The caves are not merely dark, they are indifferent. The player feels small within them, almost like an intruder. That contrast defines the game's atmosphere from its very first moments. Tomb Raider doesn't try to distract you from isolation, it forces you to experience it. If the caves represent a departure from modern society, Vilcabamba represents a different kind of discovery. It feels like a place refusing to disappear completely. The people are gone. The walls remained. The ruins are filled with doors, halls, structures, and ancient mechanisms. The remnants of a civilization lost long ago. There was something deeply melancholic about that, because introspection often follows similar paths. When someone looks deeply within themselves, memories resurface. Old emotional structures emerge. Forgotten parts of the mind are rediscovered. Vilcabamba seems to embody that feeling. It's also interesting how the game consistently rewards caution and observation in order to encourage that exploration. Tomb Raider punishes impulsiveness. It highlights the damage caused by anxiety. The traps work almost as a metaphor for that reality. Charging headfirst into everything usually leads to failure. You need to stop, observe, and understand your surroundings. Only then you should act. And that connects closely with the experience of solitude itself. Being alone with your own thoughts demands exactly the same precautions: patience, reflection, the ability to listen to what silence has to say. Even the game's secrets seem built around that idea. They are rarely found along the main path. They require curiosity, attention to detail, a willingness to question even the most ordinary-looking walls, as though the greatest discoveries are reserved for those willing to slow down enough to notice them. It's hard not to admire that. After all, the greatest treasures of the mind rarely appear on the surface. This is when Tomb Raider does something very inventive. It completely breaks the logic the game seemed to have established. Up until then, everything felt like a traditional archaeological adventure. Ancient ruins, lost civilizations, a hostile wilderness. Then, Lost Valley introduces something entirely different. Dinosaurs. Not fossils, actual dinosaurs. As if Laura has ventured so deeply into isolation that she has reached something older than civilization itself. The game's decision not to pause for a cutscene creates a unique effect. No expectations are built. You simply continue exploring until you arrive at the valley. A transition from enclosed caverns to open skies. There is also a technical detail worth mentioning here. The original Lost Valley's black sky was the result of limitations in the game's engine. The consequence, alongside years of fan discussions about whether the valley is actually inside a cave, was the impression of a perpetual night. A fortunate coincidence, considering the darkness surrounding a place inhabited by creatures that should have vanished from existence, which Lara and her infinite ammunition promptly solve. But let's get back to the point. The impact of the encounter comes from discovery, not from cinematic presentation, and that makes it far more memorable. The T-Rex feels almost like the embodiment of an ancient fear, something buried deep below the surface, a primitive memory of the human mind, like emotions, traumas, or instincts that seemed extinct, until they suddenly return when we venture too deeply into ourselves. Within this broader metaphor, Lost Valley can be understood as a repository of memories that appeared destroyed, but remain very much alive and dangerous. I believe that's one of the reasons the level remains so fascinating. It doesn't feel like a mere location. It feels like a psychological discovery. The final level of Peru takes all of this to its extreme. At this point, the game nearly abandons any sense of conventional exploration. The tomb of Qualopec doesn't feel like just another ancient place. It feels like a space built to remain sealed, hidden, resistant to intrusion, like parts of our minds that remain buried for years. And once again, Tomb Raider reinforces the principles at the core of its design: the reward for attention and the punishment for recklessness. The traps become even deadlier here because solitude carries risks as well. At some point, we may encounter destructive thoughts, fears. We may even nurture anxiety and become overly focused on obsessions. The mind itself can become hostile when explored carelessly. After all, every aspect of who we are, our virtues and our flaws, is waiting there. And the game seems to understand that dynamic, because there are prizes in the process as well. The secrets remain, the discoveries continue, as though Tomb Raider is suggesting that confronting silence can reveal something valuable, something hidden beneath the most superficial layers of human experience. And perhaps that is exactly why the original Tomb Raider remains so unique decades later. It understands something many modern games, especially AAA, seems to have forgotten. Emptiness has value too. Today, almost everything competes for our attention. Constant music, notifications, calls, messages. Tomb Raider does the opposite. Isolation was the foundation of the adventure. So many years after its release, the most difficult challenge is no longer the wolves, the bears, the traps, or even the dinosaurs. Spending a few minutes in silence is. How was your experience playing Tomb Raider? Did you feel the same? Let me know. If you like this, please hit the like button. If you want more, please subscribe. I'm Charlie, and I truly appreciate your time.